Hello, everyone. Welcome again to a new episode. This is the first episode of 2022. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is staying safe with the COVID variant going around, and so I wish everyone well. For the first episode of 2022, I'm so honored and privileged, in fact, to have a very good friend on the first episode, Masachs Boungou. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, Masachs Boungou.
Masachs J holds a PhD degree from the University of Massachusetts Lowell. His dissertation focused on how prior adverse experiences, so civil war or genocide, influences the creation of businesses and entrepreneurial ventures. In particular, his PhD thesis looked at how immigrants from post-conflict countries connect their past events of civil war and genocide to build businesses and succeed as entrepreneurs in Portland,
Maine.
So such an honor. I'm looking forward to learn as well from your work, because I think, that by definition of your thesis is something that not just immigrants can learn from it, but every other subset of people in the United States and beyond can learn from your work. So first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And we'll get into it. So before the audience and for everyone who's listening, can you just please let us know a little bit about you? So please tell us a little bit about yourself for us to start.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for this time. And I also want to say I am very glad to catch up with you. It's been a long time that we have not been able to catch up. So my name is Masachs Boungou, and and I was born in the Republic of the Congo, Congo-Brazzaville. Actually, there are two Congos. There are Democratic Republic of the Congo and Congo-Brazzaville. So sometimes, so sometimes people get a little bit confused about these two countries. So I believe that stories empower us. That's what I learned from my own experience fleeing the civil war in the Republic of the Congo. And, when my determination and drive landed me at Brandeis University on a Fulbright fellowship to study conflict studies and, of course, international studies. And then at the University of Massachusetts Lowell for my PhD program in global studies. So there I was interested in immigrants experiences. And then I decided to write a thesis that shows how immigrants from post-conflict countries who achieve success, especially in the business, see the memories of the horrible experiences not as a trauma, but as a fuel to empower a new kind of life. And I was very fortunate enough to work with them and to learn more, and of course to understand one more time what my late grandfather told me. I quote, that the world will not remember you by the weight of your purse, but the world will remember you by the soul of your heart. Is how much we influence people, how much social impact that we have on people's life, that the world will remember us. And I have been able to see this through my work, through my dissertation and research.
Outstanding. Can you just repeat again what your grandfather said? I just want that to be late grandfather. Sorry about the loss. What your late grandfather said, because I think that is what you stand for. As long as I've known you, and that's what I aspire to. That's what this podcast is aimed for. And I think 20 years down the road, God willing, we'll look back at this episode and say that's where we impacted people's life across the world based on what their late grandfather said. So if you don't mind, can you please repeat?
Oh, sure. I don't mind at all. I think you said the world will not remember you by the weight of your purse,
yes.
but by the soul of your heart.
By the soul of your heart. Thank you so much. That's a good bedrock for us to be thinking about your work, and for us now to segue into. So it sounds like that was kind of something that influenced the way you look at the world, right? And maybe has transformed, not transformed necessarily, but like has kind of given you that personality and like kind of made you who you are today. If you don't mind, are there any other people in your life that has really shaped who you are and how you think about the world, and how you became more fascinated or even passionate? I hope passionate, because I know PhDs are really long programs, but really, really excited about what your PhD thesis was on.
Of course, I think if you do not mind me saying maybe a couple of things. One is that my mom, who actually quit the school when she got pregnant of me, and when she actually gave birth to me, there was a time that I could not walk. She was very afraid that I could be crippled. So that's where she decided, to quit the school and to be a full-time employee, for me to take care of me. But she kind of emphasized to me the power of education. Education in terms of freeing ourselves from any kind of oppression, any kind of like a mental slavery. So according to her, education was a way that I could make my mark in this world, and it was a very inspirational, to me. So, and another thing that shaped me, as I said earlier, that I fled the civil war back home, back in the Republic of the Congo. I think it was in 1999, and that event not only made me understood two things. One is that human being is capable of producing. Okay, that's what we are wired for. But also, human being is capable of destroying when it comes to war. So, and I really understood the nature of a human being in the context of a civil war. And finally, talking about the Civil War, I spent a year, over a year in the forest. But before we left the village of my late grandfather, soldiers invaded my late grandfather's village. They looted everything. They burned, houses. So when we came back just to collect what was left, I saw an old woman. She was crying. And as she was crying, she was singing as well. She was not crying because she was sad. She was not crying because she was defeated. But she said, "We will survive. I will survive." So I could see that strength transfer to me. I could feel it, and that's why I think has inspired me to dig, into my dissertation with respect to immigrants that come from those kind of events? How do they manage to become more than what anyone could not think of?
That deserves a moment of silence. That was good. Thank you so much. And to your mom, if you're listening to this, we appreciate you for bringing up such an inspiring, amazing human being. For that, grandmother, thank you for being present at that time in a very difficult situation. I appreciate you, and we are grateful to you for being here with us, being present in this war and the impact you're creating and you're gonna continue to create. That is hard to follow. I don't even know why I should even get into research. We might just end the episode here, but I know this is work that will really impact people's lives, and this is so much hours and a lot of brain power you're put into this thesis. So if you don't mind, if we can segue a little bit into this thesis and just tell us a little bit about, I know you've mentioned like the why, but if you can just give us a background of how you came about the research, you know, what was the foundation of the actual research as you started a PhD program, for us to get a sense of like the beginnings of your PhD, your PhD program.
Oh, thank you so much for the question. I think two things I will name. One is very personal, as I mentioned about my background, yes. And one major question has been at the center of my life is how to tap into one's personal story to thrive. Okay, and that what has led me to explore the subject that I explored in my dissertation. Okay, and also, as I said, I wanted to do it in the context of immigrants coming from post-conflict, countries. And in addition, I was really interested in adding to the ongoing discussion in the field of entrepreneurship, which is what triggers entrepreneurialism. Okay, why people start a business. Okay, and then academia has mentioned a few factors. I don't think we have time so that I can go through those factors, but I was really interested in understanding what triggers entrepreneurialism in the context of immigrants. Okay, and looking at what academia has discussed, has found out as factors that drive individuals to create businesses, I found out that there was a gap, okay, between those factors, or one factor was not explored, okay, as much, which is the past event of adversity. Okay, for example, a civil war, etc. Okay, so that event, I did not see it in the context of the debate, and also academia has a kind of overlooked the contributions of sub-Saharan African immigrants in terms of entrepreneurs in the US. So I did not quite find a lot of data, okay, about these people, and these are the two major reasons that drove me to study and to do this research.
Excellent. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that was a good. I believe that was a good foundation to start having a personal story, but also that gap, right? And trying to kind of piece that together is very critical. If I might just ask, so I know, and I don't want to be of disservice because I know you spent a lot of years. A lot might sound like 20 years, but you spend a significant part of your time, doing this research. If I may, can you give the main takeaways that you got? You finished your PhD. But along the way, what were some of the learnings that you experienced that, so one, like, sorry, this is a two-part question. So one is like, as we're doing your research, what were you learning? And at the very end, what was like your main takeaway once you wrapped up the PhD and you got it submitted and everything got approved as of last year? So one, I'm asking about the process. What was the learning of the process? And second, what was the main takeaway at the very end? What was like, okay, this is something that was really unique about my PhD thesis?
Yeah, I think as anyone who has written a thesis or has done a PhD program, the process is not always easy. It's tough. It's tough because you have to do a lot of reading, and of course, when it comes to doing the field work, you need people to put you in touch with other people. You needed network. So, and to me, that was a kind of a difficult part, of the process. It was to find right people that can connect me to the population that I was trying to research. Okay, and then for example, what I did reach out to and community organization leaders to see if they know some of immigrants who are business owners, entrepreneurs, and if they could put me in touch with them. So that one of the best ways that I use to reach out to my interviewees. And also another thing that I want to mention is with respect to the process is that most of my research interviews they were done during this era of COVID-19. Okay, so the pandemic was high. People were afraid to meet in person. So, and it was a very tough. And actually, I even got the COVID, during the process. Yeah. So that's what I can say. So, and of course, in terms of the process also is related to professors that you work with, how you come up with the question that is not biased, and how they can help you to strengthen your research question and of course move on. So in terms of takeaways, I think there are few, maybe a couple of them I can name. One is that is the ability to assign positive and optimistic meanings or words to events such as a civil war, genocide. And that is something after they had occurred. So that is something that I learned from my interviewees. So they did not quite see it as something traumatic, but they saw it until today. They see it as something as a drive. Yes, as a drive. So that was one aspect. And another aspect is that these events help them build stories that are connected to self, and providing a sense of identity and of course life story, with a sense of a purpose and a meaning. And another takeaway was that these events were used were viewed as a resource that can be used to implement value creating strategies to overcome or to address any future business challenges. So, for example, one interviewee said to me that when I did ask him about if today his business can collapse, what kind of attitude, what kind of behavior that he could have towards that, he said, I hit the bottom and I survived. Even today, I can hit another bottom. I will survive. So nothing can stop me. So you can see in them the power of do or die attitude, do or die behavior. So it's another level of understanding the human nature. Okay. Yep. And of course, finally, another takeaway is that they were able to connect these experiences to business creation. Okay, so they were really able to say, because of this, happened to me, I found myself obliged to create a business if I wanted to be somebody. For me, it's also finding a purpose, okay, in this world. So business to them, it's a more than a business. It's not just in terms of making money. It's not just in terms of surviving, but also it is in terms of finding a purpose, meaning that has been influenced by what they want for.
Yeah, man. I will definitely have to marinate this because this is quite impactful, and I think for all our listeners out there, pretty much you have outlaid. I think your PhD thesis gives a lot for us to think about, and for how we define entrepreneurship in a sense, right? Through the lens of immigrants, right?
Yeah.
But also how people can see the value of immigrants through the lens of business.
Yeah.
There's this two-way and I see a lot of psychology here. At the same time, I see a lot of just like the practical side of having the economic means to survive. But at the same time, it's like through business they get identity, and out of that identity you get to understand who they are. And the business is just it provides you it's a framework for you to understand how much people have experienced. Just beyond the financial capital or financial gains that you get of it.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating. And I myself, I have to really think about in depth how this your thesis is affecting, it's gonna really change the way we think about society and immigrants in particular. So yep, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think if you do not mind me saying, I think another thing that I want to add is that these events, mostly when people talk about it, people who have experienced genocide, civil war, there is a kind of another look at them. People look at them with the pity, with the sense of pity, with the sense of people have been unfortunate enough in this world to experience those kind of horrible events. But I don't. To me, that's not the way that, these people look at themselves. And they look at these events more than, in a different way, in a unique way, because these events actually give them a personal philosophy. And you know that all of us is driven by personal philosophy. Yep. What is your personal philosophy? And the word how you drawing it from? Okay, and these individuals, for them, civil war, genocide has given them more than personal philosophy.
Definitely. No, thanks so much for sharing that. And I think that adds another layer on how we are thinking about, just, I mean, we never hope someone should go through that civil war or genocide. At the same time, is people have challenges in their lives in different regards, and how they approach that and the frameworks we use in their personal life is something that you can still use your work for us to start thinking about. How do you address people with mental health issues and stuff like that? I know those are different genres and categories, but I think this will be helpful for us to start thinking about that in that light. So thanks so much for sharing that. So based on, I know you just had you just completed the PhD. What has been the reaction, either from academia or from business experts or organizations, on your work? Or have you got any feedback on that? If you don't mind, and I mean, hopefully these are very, very welcoming. That because I know PhD is a long, rolling process, and I hope people appreciate the work you're putting. But have you got any feedback on the work, and people that are willing to say, hey, I would love to pick up from where you started, or I would love to apply this into my organization? What has been the reaction for you so far?
So far, I have not got a lot of reactions from outside, and the why being, I have just finished the PhD program.
Yeah,
It's
for
been
sure.
a couple of months, I would say, and
Sure.
And then it was during the holiday season. Okay, so
Yes.
there hasn't been quite a lot of reactions from in the outside, but my committee members whom I worked with, and they were very impressed about the findings of my research, and my dissertation is very unique. The subject that I tackled is very very unique because it's under researched, and of course it does give new insights of looking at immigrant entrepreneurship, not to say entrepreneurship, but through the lens of those who have experienced, these adversities. So now that's what I can say. I'm trying to reach out to some professors that I know, some organizations, of course, that I know, especially where I did my interview in Portland, and to see if I can come and just share with them the results of my dissertation. But still, it's a journey. So I am kind of on the path of selling, marketing, the results of my dissertation, and saying this is something new. Someone else can come and pick up where I have left, some gaps, and of course duplicate or replicate the research project in another state, in another city.
Definitely. And I just a side note, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is an immigrant. I mean, he didn't. I mean, it was not true. He didn't. From what I know, he didn't grow up in a civil war area, but I think immigrants have something, that comes with just being resilient, and so maybe that was something that could have been added to the PhD thesis somewhere. Elon Musk, we might lose the whole point of the thesis, right? You're focusing directly. And hopefully, please, anyone out there, and if you don't mind, I'll add your LinkedIn there in the section below on the YouTube channel as well as on the podcast. So if you are up to it, people can reach out to you via your LinkedIn after this podcast. But I think that would be a good way for you to get some feedback, if that's okay with you.
No, of course, sure. And actually, if you do not mind me saying this, this dissertation has to do a lot about me, do a lot about what I want, in the way that I see the world. I would say, actually, I have written a book which is not out there yet. So the title of my book that I'm planning to get it published maybe soon is Undeterred: How to Tap into One's Personal Story to Thrive. So and I think, as you said about immigrants, is not just in terms of resilience that they have, but also they are very undeterred. They have the sense of a focus, okay, of a focus, the sense of persistence, okay, as well, and the sense of determination. So as I said, one of the interviewees told me, I hit the bottom, I survived. I can hit the bottom today. I will resurface. So nothing can stop me.
Definitely. Yes, you've seen the tip. And by the way, once the book comes out, even please come back again. We'll talk about it. I'm really excited about that as well. That's for everyone listening, that was a surprise to me. And I think I'm really excited for him as well. So just for us to, and we'll have some lighter questions at the end, but if, let me say, someone decides to pick up your thesis, right? Let me say an organization that works with immigrants, an incubator, for instance, right? Maybe in somewhere in Colorado or maybe in Maine, picks up your thesis and says, "Oh, wow, this is really fascinating. But the learnings here are just unique," which I agree with that. How do you think, in terms of operations, what do you suggest an organization should do to ensure that they really tap into that entrepreneurial spirit of immigrants? I mean, this funding is one thing, but in terms of just coaching and management, what's your take on that? And how can we really, in essence, how can we really translate your thesis into actionable items for an incubator that is going after, or that aims to go after immigrants as potential candidates for the funding or for the mentorship program or coaching program?
I mean, first of all, I believe that organizations or the governments have to acknowledge that these individuals have strength that makes them very unique, very different from other entrepreneurs. Okay, and that strength and it comes from what they have come up with as life story, and how they use that life story as the compass and to do whatever that they can to succeed. And you may agree with me that being entrepreneurs is more than having funding, is having a unique drive, okay, in you, okay, to keep doing, or to find a best way to solve the problems, okay. And I think organizations, governments can recognize this trend from these immigrants, and that's what my dissertation is, of course, showing. Listen, these people have been left behind, but they are a great human, I would say, strength to invest in. Okay. And another thing is is also to create a space or a framework in which these immigrants can thrive, because being in a foreign country, they need to understand some of legal issues, how to start, how to create, business, which that many of them do not really know. It takes quite a time for them to understand the legal, system, in America, and also you have mentioned it, funding. Many of them did start the businesses with their own money, so they did not get any funding from any organization. So if they can have maybe an additional and a funding, I think it will boost the ventures or businesses. So, and I believe that organizations or investors will not be afraid of losing their money or the the money, because these individuals, they have a new a unique mindset, do or die. I will do it. It's for me. I have set my mind to do it, and I will do it. If today it may not work, but tomorrow it will work. And if today, I may face this kind of challenges, but this is the way that I have to do it. And also, another important aspect is that they can understand how these immigrants manage the businesses. Because the problem is also to try to understand the business management through the lens of those who have experienced the civil war or genocide, and through the lens of those who have not. What is their business management style? Are they more empathetic or are not? How do they approach customers? How do they talk to customers? How do they make sure that the goals that have been set are being achieved? And this is something that very interesting that I have highlighted in in my thesis. There are quite a lot that organizations, governments can learn and can implement, even in terms of policies. So what kind of policies that they can design to target these immigrants?
Definitely. I mean, you have alluded to a lot, and I mean, one takeaway is you're making a case, right? You're making a case for immigrant entrepreneurs as they have a competitive edge, right?
Yeah.
The shrewd business owners
Yeah.
have the empathy to really manage and operate a business. They won't quit. Even if they quit, they'll find a way to
rebounce,
reemerge.
And
I think in a business, especially a long term, if you are there for the long haul, inevitably you have challenges. Inevitably, if you're not good with your personal funds, you affect the business funds. So all these attributes, I think, is the composite of a successful business.
Yes.
But at the back end, if the entrepreneur doesn't really understand and realize the complexity of, not necessarily complexity, but like that these intricate elements of timing, good management, being resilient and focused, you will not make it, right? So good case for immigrant entrepreneurs, good case for managers to understand how to run a business in crisis, like in the pandemic. But also, how can you get your return on investment, because these people are shrewd, they save money, empathetic in the long term. That's perfect. And I think your thesis covers a lot more, which I believe people should read it. I'll share a link down there. It's for people to kind of have learn more about the work. But thank you. And I know, because I want to respect your time, we can keep on talking about this a lot more. If you can you just give? You mentioned the one interview said, if he falls back, he will rise again. Do you have one more person that really struck you and say, these people are really extraordinary for us to?
Of course, Of course, yeah. I think that was just one example.
Yes.
I cannot give you all examples of my all
Exactly.
interviews. So it was just a showcase
Yes.
about what they are, and also I think it's very important as an entrepreneur to understand yourself, because you cannot become. I mean, I don't want to say you cannot, but it's very important to understand who you are and what is your personal frame of a reference, and how you
Exactly.
use it as a compass, how you use it as a way to navigate your
Exactly.
business and to make it more productive or not.
Exactly.
And if today challenges may come to you, how you face it? Will you face it with more um, being more calm, knowing that you can survive and you
Exactly.
will survive, you will thrive again, or
Definitely.
not. So yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. That's a good way to end that. Just go to lighthearted questions. I mean, it's not necessarily lighthearted. It's just like we're just getting out of the academia world.
Okay.
This is a question I've asked a few of my past guests. One is, what has been the best advice you've ever gotten? And I asked this question because I think sometimes someone might say something to you that can really change the course of your life, or perhaps just give you an insight about something that you just start seeing the world differently. And I think in some way, because we always, as you said earlier in the interview, we always have these philosophies that we tend to live our lives by, and sometimes we might be completely wrong. That philosophy might be working for 10, 20 years, 30 years, but it might be wrong. We're just lucky, we'll just get by, we'll survive. But there might be a deeper philosophy that you might tap into and be like, oh my gosh, this makes me see the world clearer. So the context of this question is like, what has really made you to start seeing the world differently? Or what has really gave you a new idea of, like, not a new idea, but like a new pair of lenses? I see my brother, you're putting on glasses. How has that, how things, what has been and it doesn't have to be an advice, it can be what interaction or what exposure has led you to start thinking differently?
Oh, I think quite. I think there are quite a lot of things, but maybe one or two. Never forget where you are coming from. Okay, always remember where you are coming from. That was one of the things that my late grandfather taught me. Never forget it. Never forget where you are coming from. Wherever you go, be there, but never forget where you are coming from.
That's special. That's special. That hits home, and I think that's really critically important as we, the world is getting so closed up for good reasons, but at the same time, it's like your identity matters, right? Valuable. And the very last question: what is your legacy? How do you want your legacy to be? I know we're very young people.
Yeah.
And we have, we have, knock on wood, we have a really long time to be have an impact on this world. But what do you want? What do you want people to think about your life's work? And I let me just give where a reason. So Jeff Bezos was in an interview and he said, for you to really create an impact in the world, look at yourself when you're 80 years old and walk backwards. And if you realize that some of the decisions you're making short term doesn't make yourself happy, means that you've missed out on it, right? And I mean, I'm guessing suggestion is like, we should not think about the next 10 years or we should think about, God willing, we're able to live 80 years or 90. How would you be feeling that at that time? What are the decisions you made for the past 8 decades shape the way you are in terms of satisfaction, but also how much impact you're creating in the world? So I pose that question to you. How do you want, I mean, legacy always sounds like you have passed away, but how do you want to be remembered on your time here?
But I think I said it in earlier when we started doing the this conversation.
Yeah.
Is to I would like to be remembered by the soul of my heart, how much I have a social impact on people's lives. That's something that is so dear to me, and also I know that I cannot be remembered in such a way if I do not keep improving myself.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that many people are anxious to improve the social conditions, but very are anxious to improve themselves.
Mm.
Many people are, or to put it differently, many people are keen to change the world, but very few are keen to change themselves so that they can change the world.
Mm.
So for me, I would love to be remembered in such a manner, but to do so, I have to be able to continue changing myself, continue improving myself, understanding myself, so that I can be able to have social impact. And that's what that's what happened to Senator William Fulbright. And I told you that I was a Fulbright scholar alumnus. Senator Fulbright, William Fulbright, he set up the Fulbright program with the help of the US Congress, because he understood the effects of World War II, and how the lack of mutual understanding between people, between states, and the lack of education could bring the world to damages.
Mm-hmm.
And through that program, he said, this is the way that I want to be remembered. Social impact through education, through mutual understanding. And to me, I believe that each of us has such a power to always seek how we can impact, influence socially other people, but also by making sure that we can improve ourselves.
Man, that was a great way to end this. And I really thank you for being here to share so much. Just give so much for us to think about. And I'll be more than honored for you to come back again, even to give us updates about the research work, or even when your book is coming out. We'll love to have you here again. And thank you so much for your insights. To all our listeners. Masachs.
Yeah, Masachs Mbungo.
Masachs Bongo. Please, I'll add all his links, LinkedIn and his paper summary at the bottom of the content page. It'll be on YouTube as well as right here on the podcast. Doers within growth markets, and please check him out. As a bright, young, aspiring guy, as you guys have heard by now. I'm looking forward to seeing how it's gonna create a social impact in the world in a very unique way, I will say. So thank you all. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks again for coming again on this podcast. And I am very excited about this year, and we're looking forward to seeing you in the future episodes. So thanks again for being here. And thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Sure.